right, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Reality Check, which you know what that means. It is time for Philadelphia City Council Live. City Council Live today here on the home of Black Talk Media, WURD. You get exclusive gavel-to-gavel coverage of the Philadelphia City Council when they are in session as a whole here on WURD every Thursday. We hope it's not 10 a.m. sharp. We're still waiting on the Philadelphia City Council. They should be starting momentarily, so we'll just keep an eye open for them. I'm Charles Ellison. I'm your anchor for City Council Live, also your executive producer and host of Reality Check, your daily dose of public affairs here on WURD. You can go to @Ellison Report, by the way, on twitter.com, #RealityCheck. Let's also use #City Council Live. Let's continue to use #City Council Live. You'll see that being very active on Thursdays around this same time, if especially you're on Twitter. And I don't even think you need to be signed up for Twitter. If you just go to twitter.com and put in #City Council Live, you can see the action there and see clips or excerpts of statements being made by members of City Council as they're talking, as they're deliberating over various pieces of legislation and the business of the city. Let's go ahead and open up the phone lines while we wait for the Philadelphia City Council. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on City Council Live. It's 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on City Council Live. As we wait on the Philadelphia City Council to convene momentarily here on WURD. Also, you're listening to us obviously clearly on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, and you can also live stream us at wordradio.com. WURD TV is at youtube.com/onWURD and facebook.com/4word2. So please feel free to tune in that way and also to leave your comments there. Also, from just a little bit of housekeeping here related to yesterday's business. Yesterday's interview we did have with Philadelphia School Super. It was the first interview that we had on Reality Check with Philadelphia School Superintendent William Height. He's promising to come back on at some point. You know, we'll let you know when the next time he'll be available. One, that was my own personal decision to have him on so I could ask him questions. So I was just being a little bit, just for me in terms of time constraints, if you want to call that selfish, perhaps it was, because I just had a lot of questions for him, had a lot of questions that I'd been presenting on air. So I needed time to do that. He was late also. So yes, I made that was my own personal decision. There was no deal. There was no conditions. There was no conversation between myself or folks at the superintendent's office that he'd come on so long as people didn't call in. No, that didn't take place. It's just my own personal decision. I just made a judgment call, and I know a few people were asking me about that. You know, and the next time we bring him on, then we'll make him available and we'll just open it up as far as the discussion is concerned. But time was of the essence, and as they say, and so I just made that was my own personal choice. So, you know, there it is on that. However, I'm told you can email two people directly. One is the superintendent. His personal email is superintendent@philasd.org. So I'm going to announce that two more times in case there are people out there who don't know and who didn't hear what I just said. You can reach the Philadelphia Schools superintendent directly. His personal email is superintendent@phila, that's PHILASD, philasd.org. So one more time, superintendent@philasd.org. I'm told he checks that email quite frequently. His staff checks it for him too, and they're saying he's responsive. I don't know. I've never had that experience of emailing the Philadelphia school superintendent directly like that, but I'm told he's very responsive by email, superintendent@philasd.org. One other person you should also reach out to if you have concerns about the Philadelphia School District. You need to get some responsiveness from the main office. Monica Lewis is the chief of staff for Dr. Height, her email, she said, please email her if you have issues or if you have questions. mlewis4, so mlewis, the number 4, at philasd.org. That's the email address for the Chief of Staff in the Philadelphia School Superintendent Office, Monica Lewis. Once again, her email is mlewis, MLEWIS, the number 4, mlewis4 at philasd.org. So, and once again, he did promise on air he's going to come back. And when he comes back on air, then, you know, definitely we'll make it more. But I also made the decision not to make an announcement of it or not to make a thing of it a day or two in advance, because it's been my experience on this program that sometimes we'll schedule public officials or elected officials for this program, and then at the last minute we find out that they can't make it. You know, they bail on us, they ditch us. And I just didn't feel like being embarrassed like that. Hey, y'all, you know, like announce on Monday, we got the superintendent, he's coming on. And then, you know, because look, he was late. I wasn't even sure he was going to show up yesterday. Like, it was at the very last minute where he came on. I was actually convinced for a few moments there that he wasn't going to come on, that he had decided, like, you know what, I don't want to be bothered with this. That has happened on a few occasions on this program, and it's happened where it's left a little bit of egg on my face, because I'll make an announcement and I'll say, hey, you know, I'm really excited about this person coming on. We're scheduled to have them, and they don't come on. And so I just didn't feel like that. I'm sorry. So if you were in my position and you were sitting in my chair, you wouldn't want that kind of egg on your face. You wouldn't want that kind of embarrassment. So I'm just trying to avoid it. And it's not fair to you, the listening audience, to get you ginned up like that and to get you anticipating one thing, and I'm promising to deliver you something, and then I don't come through on that promise. I'm doing that publicly on air. That's not fair to you. So that's why I made that decision. So that explains that. And the reason why I'm talking about it now is because, you know, a few people asked me about it on air yesterday. I had one person on social media, on Twitter, ask me about it or take me to task for it. I had another person DM me, and a couple other people I got emails from. So there were a few people out there who were concerned about it, and it made it, and were concerned that I was trying to shield the superintendent. We didn't have a conversation about that. I can promise you we did. It was no deal. It was just me. So I just wanted to make sure I had time with the superintendent, because I had a lot of important questions to ask him. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's get to serious business while we're waiting on the Philadelphia City Council. The number of homicides in the city of Philadelphia in 2021 thus far is 75. So it's 36% at the moment, 36% above where we were this same time last year, about 55 homicides in the city of Philadelphia by this time last year. So the murder rate still very high. We're on pace at the moment, or we're on track to outpace the homicide rate from last year, which was already record-breaking. And thus far, there have been 286, nearly 290 shooting victims in the city of Philadelphia thus far in 2021. That's 59% more shooting victims thus far in 2021 than in 2020. And there have been nearly 500, about 499 that we can count, or that have been counted, 499 shooting incidents throughout the city of Philadelphia, about 44% more shooting incidents than this time last year. So Philadelphia still has a real big gun problem. Violence is still spiraling out of control. We say this all the time. You know, people are very frustrated because they don't see, people are wondering what happened to the 100-day plan. People don't see really the mayor putting any real sense of urgency on this. Don't really see any visible emotion from him with respect to the number of people getting shot and getting killed and murdered in his city. And so people are quite understandably frustrated. You know, I do want I was having this conversation with some family yesterday in Philly who were, hoping, still hoping that the police commissioner works, that she works, Danielle Outlaw works. And they're like, just give her a little bit more time. and you also have to take into consideration that at the end of the day, she's not the elected official. She has a boss, the mayor, and so we wonder what that relationship is like between the police commissioner and the mayor. Is the mayor, especially with how emotionally disconnected he seems, or he appears. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe he's not emotionally disconnected. Maybe can only speculate here. But I can't speculate because we just don't see it. We don't see any visible emotion from him. But maybe his emotional disconnect from the very high level of violence in the city, in some ways constrains the police commissioner. In addition to already the police commissioner having to manage the type of institution that the Philadelphia Police Department has always been. It's not a very easy place to manage. It has certain norms, certain traditions that are frankly antiquated and racist, sexist. A lot of things I'm sure she's dealing with, and she's trying to deal with head on while at the same time trying to respond to that crisis of violence. So, we'll see. I still kind of stand by earlier statement. I think she's going to have to do a lot better as far as the communications aspect of things. But, that remains to be seen. Okay, Philadelphia City Council is starting. Let's go ahead and tune in. You'll hear Philadelphia City Council President Darrell Clark.
Due to the current public health emergency, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, Enquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting, and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. The clerk will please call the roll to take attendance. Members that are in attendance will please indicate they're present or whatever they may so choose. So their image will be displayed on the screen. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues, and Philadelphia residents. Good morning.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Dom.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues and Philadelphians.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning, everybody present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning, Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, City of Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gim.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman Heenan.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Still screaming justice for Darius Winters, 15-year-old young man murdered in Southwest Philadelphia, part of my district.
Good morning.
Councilman Jones.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues in Philadelphia. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Thomas.
I'm sorry, I'm unmuted. This is Councilmember Squilla. Good morning, Council President and colleagues present.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the listening public.
Good morning.
Council President Clark.
And good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. Today, we're going to have an invocation, a much-needed invocation. So to give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes the Bishop James Darrell Robinson of Yesha Ministries. is here today as the guest of Councilman Johnson. I would ask all members and guests to please bow your heads for the invocation. Bishop, please proceed.
Yes, greetings to the City Council persons and to the public. Let's pray. Eternal Father and God, we thank you for this opportunity to pray. We understand, God, that we're in such difficult times with Corona and with the murder rate in our city. And so, God, we're asking you for wisdom. Wisdom as the affairs of this city are handled by City Council and those elected officials, Lord God, that are doing things to make things better. I pray, God, that you might visit us, God, with your love, your joy, your peace. I pray, God, that you would give us an understanding on how to communicate the right ideas and the right solutions to fix problems that so desperately need to be fixed. I pray, God, that you would help us to walk and to work in peace and harmony, and every bit of confusion would be dispelled. Help us, dear Lord, to lower the degree of racism and prejudice that seems to haunt us in our city and other cities across the nation. We pray, God, that you might just be there for us. God, you said that we should ask you. You said if we lack wisdom, we should ask you. God, we're not leaning to our own understanding, but in all of our ways, you said we should acknowledge you. God, again, we thank you for this great opportunity to pray. And I pray, God, that all these wonderful things that we're trying to do, that you would help us to do them in the matchless and eternal name of Jesus. We thank you, Lord, and we praise you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Bishop. It's much needed invocation. I really appreciate you. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, February 18, 2021, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, February 18th be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, February 18, 2021 stand approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Thank you. Chair thanks the Councilwoman. Our next order of business is communications, and Chair asks Mr. Decker to please read the messages from the mayor and any other communication that he may have in his possession.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I am submitting herewith for the consideration of your honorable body the following proposed ordinance. An ordinance of authorizing the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation and the Commissioner of Procurement on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into a multi-year concession agreement with German American Marketing Incorporated, doing business as Christmas Village in Philadelphia, for the operation and management of a seasonal Christmas village for the City of Philadelphia at Love Park and other potential city-owned areas, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Decker. And our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. And by way of a reminder, we're asking that all resolutions, including privileged resolutions, be placed on the final passage calendar for the next session of council unless they are being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide an appropriate opportunity for public comment. I want to thank you very much for your anticipated cooperation. Mr. Decker, would you please read the titles of the legislation that is being offered today by the members?
Councilwoman Parker offers on behalf of Council President Clark a resolution commemorating the life and legacy of William Cody Anderson, a legendary figure in talk radio, a pioneering leader in African-American owned radio and media, and a positive voice in the Black community.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution launching the establishment and funding of the Philadelphia Anti-Violence Resource Network to provide a one-stop clearinghouse of information and guide Philadelphians directly affected by violence in their communities to available resources within the City of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers one bill and one resolution. entitled an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Zoning and Planning, to revise certain provisions of Chapter 14600 entitled Use Regulations by amending the retail sales use category and use-specific standards.
For the committee.
And a resolution declaring March 7 through 14, 2021, during Women's History Month as Women in Construction Week in the city of Philadelphia, and honoring women in non-traditional careers for their commitment to support, increase, and advance the participation of women in construction, manufacturing, and transit careers in the Philadelphia region.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gim offers one resolution honoring and commending Jennifer R. Clark for her 15-year tenure as the Executive Director of the Public Interest Law Center and her strategic, pioneering, and transformative work to expand access to justice that has changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people across Pennsylvania and the nation.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Johnson offers a resolution recognizing the Philadelphia Obituary Project for its work to provide dignity to homicide victims and solace to their families by remembering and honoring those victims' lives.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Green offers three resolutions, entitled a resolution designating Monday, March 1, 2021 as COVID-19 Remembrance Day in the city of Philadelphia, and a resolution recognizing and congratulating Renee Henderson on the occasion of her retirement from community service after more than 2 decades of faithful and dedicated service.
Thank you. Those two resolutions will be on next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the committees on finance and on gun violence prevention to hold joint hearings regarding the connection between poverty, gun violence, and systemic racism in Philadelphia.
That will be on this week's calendar.
Councilwoman Brooks offers one resolution calling on the federal government to enact a plan by the end of President Biden's first 100 days in office to cancel all student loan debt and begin the transition to education as a public good.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Dom offers one resolution congratulating Councilmember Sherelle L. Parker on her historic appointment as board chair of the Delaware River Port Authority and honoring her work as a board member and trailblazing leader in Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Thomas and Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offer an ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2021 from the general fund. The council to the general fund, the managing director.
Refer to committee.
Councilman Thomas also offers a resolution honoring and congratulating the after-school activities and partnerships chess club for their bringing together over 150 clubs and 2,500 students across the city and being instrumental in Philadelphia being named Chess City of the Year by U.S. Chess.
And that will be on next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Bass offers three resolutions, entitled a resolution recognizing February 2021 as American Heart Month and honoring the American Heart Association of Philadelphia for their work in providing health resources in Philadelphia, emphasizing the importance of heart health and encouraging a healthy lifestyle.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring Lynette Medley and her daughter Naya McGlone for her menstrual hub, The Spot Period, and for the work they have done to provide menstrual products and ongoing support for those suffering from period poverty.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution recognizing the month of February as National African American Read-In Month and honoring Dr. Ebony Elizabeth Thomas, Humanizing Stories Project, for its work to bring together diverse voices from the world of children's media, literature, and culture through digital advocacy, community projects, and classroom resources.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman O offers a resolution refuting the article Contracting for Sex in the Pacific War, which contradicts the historical consensus and evidence of the thousands of women forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese Imperial Army before and during World War II, written by J. Mark Ramsayer, Mitsubishi Professor of Japanese Legal Studies at Harvard Law School.
Next week, calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes the introduction of bills and resolutions. Is Councilwoman...
I'm prepared, Mr. President. We can communicate.
Thank you, Leader. Our next order of business will be the reports from committee, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a report from the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the chair of our Committee on Appropriations, the Committee on Appropriations reports out 3 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, would you please read that report?
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Appropriations, to which is referred Bill number 210077, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing Transfers and Appropriations for Fiscal Year 2021 from the General Fund, the Council, to the General Fund, the Department of Planning and Development. And Bill number 210120, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing Transfers and Appropriations for Fiscal Year 2021 from the General Fund, the Council, to the General Fund, certain all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, and thereby implementing Council's new normal jobs initiative. And Bill number 210121, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing Transfers and Appropriations for Fiscal Year 2021 from the Grants Revenue Fund, the Director of Finance Provision for Other Grants, to the General Fund, the Managing Director. Respectfully reports it is considered the same and returns the attached bills to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much. The chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, on behalf of Councilmember Sanchez, our chair of the Committee on Appropriations, I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 210077, 210120, and 210121.
Thank you.
Jones.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210077, 210120, 210121. All those in favor will indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and this bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. The chair now recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a report from the Committee on Law and Government.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Law and Government reports out 2 bills and 1 resolution with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Law and Government, to which is referred Bill number 210073, entitled An Ordinance Providing for the Submission of the Qualified Electors of the City of Philadelphia of an Amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, providing for expansion of the Board of License and Inspection Review. And Bill number 210080, entitled An Ordinance Amending Section 20610 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Statement of Financial Interests, by revising the required conditions and information for filing. And resolution number 210085, entitled the Resolution Proposing an Amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, providing for expansion of the Board of License and Inspection Review, and providing for the submission of the proposed amendment to the electors of Philadelphia. Respectful reports it has considered the same and returns the attached bills and resolution to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 210073 and 210080.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210073, 210080. All those in favor will indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar for today. Resolution number 210085 will be placed on our final passes calendar for our next session of council. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a report from the Committee on Public Health and Human Services. Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning. I do apologize. I just got dropped from the call, so I'm just getting reconnected here. One moment.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. President.
No problem.
One of those mornings. Hold on one second. Mr. President, I'm sorry I missed. Did you recognize me for?
Yeah, just recognize you, Councilman, before a report from the committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Public Health and Human Services reports out one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
The Committee on Public Health and Human Services, to which is referred Bill Number 210082, entitled an ordinance amending Title 17 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Contracts and Procurement, by amending Chapter 17-1400, entitled Non-Competitively Bid Contracts Financial Assistance, to provide procedures applicable to the awarding of contracts to non-city providers of vaccine doses for COVID-19 and related variants. Respectfully reports it has considered and amended the same and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bill Number 210082.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bills Number 210082. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and this bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. That concludes our reports from committee, and our next order of business is consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee with the suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had a first reading. These bills will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills on the second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210140, 210141, 210142, 210144, 210145, 210146, 210147, 210149, 210150, 210151, 210153, and 200617. All other resolutions and bills are being held, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Before we proceed with the consideration of our calendar, we will move forward with our public comment. We're going to take a brief 5 to 10 minute recess to give our technology professional some time to connect the speakers that we have for today's meeting.
All right, you're listening to the Philadelphia City Council. We are here on City Council Live on WURD. They're going to take, as you just heard, Philadelphia City Council President Darrell Clark announced they're going to take about 5 or 10 minutes or so to get the technology ready for the public comment period. So we had a lot of business yesterday here on Reality Check. I realized I forgot to mention something I have to stay on top of, and so it's something we are working on. Just to remind everyone to take advantage of public comment period during these live sessions of City Council. And I would make the argument that public comment is probably, especially if you've done public comment pre-pandemic, you've had to go to City Hall, it takes quite a bit, and it takes a big chunk of your day, to do that, to deliver that 3-minute set of remarks or that 3-minute message to City Council. You got to go through the metal detectors, you got to, into City Hall, you got to wait, before your name is called, particularly if there are a whole lot of people who are waiting in line to deliver public comment. It's going to take a considerable amount of your day. So while we're in pandemic and they're operating virtually, take advantage of public comment as a way to talk directly to City Council about bills that are under consideration. There are, of course, other ways to connect with City Council and other ways to make demands of City Council to make sure your concerns are heard. But it's been still disappointing, the level or the lack of participation in public comment that we've been hearing these past few weeks. Not a whole lot of participation. When we do get some participation, people are talking about resolutions that are honorific or, regarding, certain, regarding, the observance of certain holidays or the observance of certain persons that resolutions are designed for. And that's fine. That's fine to go ahead and, show your support for different observances that are being respected in those that are being respected in those resolutions that are being introduced. But we got to get to the real business. There's been some real serious pieces of legislation that have been introduced by City Council. I haven't seen much public comment on them. Let me go to Ada out of Mount Airy, who's calling in for a reality check. Ada.
Good morning. How are you, Charles?
Morning. All right.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about the violence in this city, and I don't understand all these meetings they're having, and nothing is really actually getting done. But there is, on Saturday, our church is having a buyback gun, Mount Airy Church of God in Christ. Yeah. And so
this Saturday?
Yes. At
Mount Airy Church of God in Christ. Right. Where is that located, by the way, Ms. Ada?
6401 Ogons Avenue.
6401 Ogons? Okay.
Yeah, and please.
And what time is that gun buyback?
I'm not sure. I think they said 10 o'clock.
Okay.
But you could call the church. The receptionist would have that information. I think the police commissioner Outlaw is involved with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that we need to do. I mean, I wish that could be something that's ongoing. But you're absolutely right. Like I know we did hear, right, Ms. Ada, we heard a bill being announced or being introduced by Councilmember Derek Green to have the committees on finance and gun violence in City Council hold a joint hearing to explore the connection between systemic poverty and gun violence in Philadelphia. But we already know those connections. We already have that data in front of us. We have reams of data explaining the root causes of violence in the city of Philadelphia. What we need are maybe a hearing that pulls together components of an actual plan to address.
Exactly.
I would like to hear a working session.
Redundant. Yes.
Right.
Yes, or a whole get rid of all of them. Because I don't see them doing anything really. I don't. They're collecting a paycheck and patting each other on the butt. I'm sorry.
What do you think? Well, let me ask you, Ms. Ada. Okay, so gun buyback is one of them, like what your church is doing. What are some other strategies you feel the city could be implementing right now against gun violence in the city?
I think employment. Employ these young people. Give them something. Give them, train them.
Right.
Train them to do something. I mean, a lot of them are crying out for that. They're, so employment is my biggest thing. Train these young men for jobs, job opportunity.
Yeah. I think there was something that I have to follow up on that. I remember someone mentioning, I don't know if it was a council person, someone's going to have to jog my memory here, about some sort of streets department program, some type of temporary employment for waste management and trash pickup, something that they were expanding, kind of as a temporary employment solution. But anyway, I think that you're absolutely right. I know it's pandemic, folks, certain businesses and establishments are shut down, but there are there's still lots of services that are needed outdoors. I'm just saying as an example, and a lot of young people in the city, particularly young people that are in distressed circumstances, could be taken advantage of. But there's some programs out there. There are programs that are out there, and there are also programs that are in that should be created. But you're absolutely right, Ms. Ada. I appreciate that. But we did hear earlier on there was with respect to gun violence, just repeating that again, Councilman Derek Green introducing legislation to have a joint session or a joint hearing between the City Council committees on finance and gun violence prevention to explore the connection between systemic poverty and gun violence in Philadelphia. I don't have a bill number for that, but I know that's something that they were just introducing recently, and maybe we'll have some comments or we'll hear some comments. Thanks, Ms. Ada, for calling in. I'm going to let you go. We'll keep the phone lines open while we wait on public comment period. But perhaps we'll hear some comments later on during this edition of City Council Live from Councilman Green about that bill. You should go to a few places if you're listening in or if you're watching Philadelphia City Council Live as the session is taking place. One, I highly advise, especially if you are an avid student of Philadelphia City Council and you like listening in to City Council Live, you like watching it, I highly recommend that you have a pen and pad in front of you at all times when you are listening to Philadelphia City Council. Okay, so as you have that pen and pad, and I do this as well, I have like a digital pen and pad, you could call it. When you hear those bill numbers announced, write those bill numbers down. That's the next step. Write those bill numbers down. I noticed Council Majority Leader Sherelle Parker, she's slowing down a little bit when she's reading those bill numbers out loud, when they're reading out bills and resolutions on final passage. So that's good. But and sometimes you don't have to, since we're in 2021, most of these bill numbers are going to start off like 2-1. So you're going to hear 2-1, and bills that you have from last year, since it was 2020, the bill started off like 2-0. So now that we're in 2021, you're going to hear bills like you heard bills from Council Majority Leader Sherelle Parker announced. She was announcing 210-140. And so what I do is I especially when you're starting to hear numbers in sequence, I don't write the whole thing out. I'm just like, she's like 210-140, 210-141. So then I just go 141, 142, 144. Okay, we're back at public comment period. Let's listen in.
Considering the resolutions and bills we have before us today, we will consider public comment. It will go as follows. The public comment must concern matters of the second reading and final passage calendars for possible action at a session of council. A speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, your phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support or against the legislation, and add you to the list. We will telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Depending on the circumstances, we will designate a time. Today, you will have 2 minutes, so we ask you to please, if you need to, adjust your testimony to reflect a 2-minute limit. In order to be fair, all those wishing to speak, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. So once invited to the meeting and asked to begin your testimony, a timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony, and when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks. Shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. I also reserve the right, under the provisions of the public comments, to limit the number of speakers where repetitious comments are being made on the same matter, and to limit the scope of testimony to only the certain items on the agenda during the emergency, which could affect callbacks for public comment at the meeting. And also, please be aware that the public meeting is being recorded, and because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. I will now ask the Chief Clerk to please read the name of our first speaker.
Tiffany Green, commenting on 210-142.
She is not on the line.
I am on the line. Hello.
Good
Hello?
morning.
Okay.
Yes. Good morning. Just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, Tiffany Green. I am discussing Bill 210-142.
Go ahead.
Council President and Council, we, Point Breeze community, is requesting your help to put on hold Bill 210-142 and stop the sale of 20 city-owned properties listed to give to sell to a developer. Point Breeze Cross Street. There was no public meeting for this resolution bill that was fast-tracked and introduced on February 18th, and now it's up for final passage. Okay, this process will have a negative impact. Council President, you have been promoting neighborhood preservation initiative, and we're saying that we would like to have an opportunity to have low-wage home ownership, which has not been done in our community for people making under $15 an hour. These are essential workers, and we work at ShopRite and Ross and everything. And these young ladies, single mothers with children, have stated they would like to have an opportunity for low home ownership. We have taken surveys in our community, and they have stated that workforce housing is not affordable. They don't even feel $150,000 is affordable. We should be able to have 30 AMI home ownership below that, and we as a community will set up a committee and oversee these 20 properties. You are selling to a developer who just received 19 properties last year for Grays Ferry and sold them from $185,000 to $230,000. Okay, that is not affordable for low-wage working families. We want equal treatment. New residents are notified in advance of city-owned properties, and they are told they have an opportunity to have meetings, and they're able to dictate. The city just gave or approved 6 to 10 properties for a doggy park, but yet you will not allow Point Breeze community to have opportunity. Councilman Johnson promised 50 properties for home ownership on this particular block. We are asking Councilman Johnson to uphold his promise from 2012, 2013, and do not sell these properties for workforce and market rate housing. It is not fair to ask you to stand with you in your time of need, and yet you don't have the same respect for us to have an opinion in our community development process. Okay, we ask that City Council put a hold on this bill, and please give us a chance. I'm asking you to really give us a chance during COVID-19.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Rashawn R. Williams, commenting on 210144.
Peace and love. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rashawn Williams. I'm commenting on resolution number 210144. I want to start off by saying that if there is a level of apathy toward supporting this bill, then that means that there is a strong level of apathy to all of the consequences of not paying attention to the repair of a people that we have experienced in Philadelphia. We've already been quite aware, made well aware of the amount of murders that have taken place, the education violence that takes place. Gentrification is a completely separate conversation. However, it's a part of the same discussion. There are a series of things that plague specifically the Black community in Philadelphia and in the nation. But since I'm speaking directly to Philadelphians, the thing that I want to prioritize is the apathy. And so, like I said, if there is a level of apathy towards a study for reparations, then that means that we have no interest in solving the issues that plague our community directly here in the city of Philadelphia. I don't just urge us to consider this reparations resolution for us to study how proposals can be given across the nation. I urge us to do so because we have an education crisis, we have a health crisis, we have a violence crisis, we have a neurological cerebral development process in our people's ability to cognitively function, and we haven't addressed any of those things. So I'm excited to hear what everyone else has to say and how they will share their opinions so that we can amass a collective consciousness for us to consider this reparations resolution. And I would ask us to remember that we are, and if we haven't, and if we are not, we were once the members of the community that need your advocacy. So please do not forget that you are a member of the community that needs this advocacy so this work can be done on behalf of our people, because you are those people too. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it.
The next speaker is Brianna Moore, commenting on 210144.
Good morning. I'm testifying today on behalf of the NCOBRA, the National Coalition of Black for Reparations in America. We are in full support of
Ms. Moore, just state your name. Ms. Moore, just state your name for the record, please.
Brianna Moore.
Thank you. Go ahead.
May I continue?
Yes, please. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm testifying today on behalf of NCOBRA, the National Coalition of Black for Reparations in America, and we're in full support for Resolution 210144, calling on Congress to pass H.R. 40, the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans. Philadelphia is the poorest big city in America, and we are a majority Black and brown city. We will benefit the most from the passing of H.R. 40. Black people live every day with the afterlife of slavery. We experience skewed life chances, limited access to health and education, premature death, incarceration, and poverty. Enslaved Africans, our ancestors, and their descendants have suffered crimes against humanity. We have suffered murder, extermination, enslavement, deportation, forcible transfer, imprisonment, torture, sexual violence, persecution, sterilization. All over the nation, academic, medical, and religious institutions, city councils, and state legislatures are exploring their historical connections with slavery and making efforts to address this history. It's time for the national government to do the same thing through the H.R. 40 bill. And COBRA defines reparations as a process of repairing, healing, and restoring a people injured because of their group identity and in violation of their fundamental human rights by governments, corporations, institutions, and families. Those groups that have been injured have the right to obtain from the government, corporation, institution, or family responsible for the injuries, which is needed to repair and heal themselves. In addition to being a demand for justice, it is a principle of international human rights law. We are asking for atonement for our Black Holocaust, which has never been atoned for. The passing of this bill is a step toward making an atonement to our ancestors. We owe it to them and their descendants. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Fatima Adekola, commenting on 210144.
Good morning.
She is not on the line.
The next speaker is Ari Meritazam, commenting on 210144.
Thank you. I'm Minister Ari Meritazam of the Invisible Church of Our Enslaved Ancestors and the Northeast representative of COBRA, which is the acronym for the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. I'm a member of COBRA Philadelphia. I request an invitation to revise and extend my remarks because of the restrictions on time. Thanks, Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, for the invitation to support your resolution calling on Congress to pass H.R. 40, the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. The H.R. 40 Commission would target full repair in the context of our people from 1619 to present day, as supported by the voluminous millions and millions of written documents and now databases. H.R. 40 stands in the center of the political crossroads, representing reparations for our wealth gap, for miseducation, for our health gap, our political prisoners, and our right of return, and yes, a check as an element of the solution. Currently there are 173 co-sponsors of H.R. 40. Locally, the congressional officials in the Delaware Valley are Representative Brendan Ball, 2nd District, Representative Dwight Evans, 3rd District, Representative Madeline Dean, 4th District, Representative Murray Gay Scanlon, 5th District, Representative Lisa Blunt, Rochester, Delaware, at large, Representative Donald Norcross, 1st District, Camden County, New Jersey. Please join them with the passage of this resolution. Our mother's mother's mother and our father's father's father, thank you. This resolution remembers them and values them and gives new life to them through us, their descendants. As I close, today is an auspicious day. We invite you and every member of the Philadelphia City Council to register for our Recreational Awareness Day event at www.incobraphl.org to better understand the facts and circumstances of what happened to our ancestors and the generational injuries to us, their descendants. Again, the website is www.incobraphl.org for Reparation Awareness Day event. Again, I thank Councilman Johnson and the Philadelphia City Council members for this resolution, expressing your support for Congress to pass H.R. 40, the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. And remember, and never forget, reparation is the crossroads solution to our human capital infrastructure in the context of a reparations accord for descendants of African slaves in the United States as a matter of public policy. And I thank you for the short time.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Nabila Bey, commenting on 210144.
Good morning. This is Nabila Bey, speaking on 210144. I call on the spirit of our great Queen Mother Moore, who presented a petition to the United Nations in 1957 and in 1959 for self-determination against genocide and for land and reparations. I noticed that your bill asked for compensation and atonement. And compensation, of course, could never be repaid for the free labor and the torture of our ancestors. However, here are some examples of repair, such as returning lands that were stolen from people of African descent, granting land mass for people of African descent who choose to live among each other, although not being totally separated from the United States, but still interacting with the United States. But we need some place where we can be among our own. Free education through the doctorate level and loan forgiveness for all college and after high school training programs. Free name changes, free legal name changes, so that we can return to our own and practice self-determination. Targeted physical and mental health treatment for the healing of our people. And what is our people? One of the major tenets of NCOBRA is to honor the subject called peoplehood. You know, all people, all human beings have the right to determine their own peoplehood. And so I'm just asking that, and I'm grateful for the resolution, and I'm asking that you give full support for H.R. 40 and for all reparations bills. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
142.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. State your name for the record. Your testimony.
Ortiz, I'm opposing Bill 20142. To be sold to high caliber. We want for people earning $7.50 to $15 to place a low wage. Not high. Besides working here too. We have over 5,000 homeless people in Philadelphia, not because they are not working, it's because of the rent are so high and the wages are $7.50 to $15. Family torn apart where the system has failed to help each other, where family cannot get help and support. Did you know we only have 700 beds in Philadelphia? If you have to be in line by a certain time, and if you're working, you do not have a place to sleep. This is where it gets tricky. No place. You're sleeping on steps, alley, parks, maybe in a car if you have a family, and bridges. There are true people who want homes, and family do too. Landlords filing false claims, rental license not up to date, and finally eviction. I am a homeowner that lives here and been affected, so has many others, in a two-story row home. These new homes towers over our home causes damage. I know. Where's the help for us? Development destroying people's homes. Why is the city ready to throw long-term residents away? Those that choose to stay here. Long time in the roof causing debt problems. What happens? We're good enough for votes, but not enough for a place to live, jobs, and supermarket. If a new comes to buy a home, they should be paying their fair share taxes. You said the city needs money. Why are we priced out, long-time residents? Why are we getting less and then 10-year abatement gets more? All I have seen is taxes hit the most high with utilities and other entities. We, the long-time residents, deserve better, not priced out of taxes that have less than water. Did you know water went up $60 more? You pay water bill on top of that. We voted for 17 council people and a mayor. Only 3 council persons care about long-time residents. Did you know CN has 4 years?
Ms. Ortiz.
Wait, for senior housing. To summarize this, the land can be better served for senior housing and low-wage homes for people.
Ms. Ortiz.
Thank you for listening to the problems and the concerns of the people of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Pat White, commenting on 210142.
Point Breeze is requesting 20 city-owned properties. We need our community to have low-income housing. Yes. Can you hear me?
Just state your name.
I'm sorry, Pat White.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Point Breeze is requesting 20 city-owned properties. We need our community to have low-income housing ownership. We want to be involved in making decisions being allotted to these developers. We have long-term ownership in neighborhoods and feel our voices are not being heard. Again, I oppose Bill 210142. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Vivian Burbidge, commenting on 210142.
Yes, I'm here. My name is Vivian Burbidge, and I am commenting on Bill 210142. As a long-time and long-term homeowner in the area of South Philadelphia, I am under the constituency of Kenyatta Johnson, and I vehemently oppose the building of these 20 properties or giving over to developers. It will be a terrible impact on the citizenry of South Philadelphia. Plus, I strongly oppose because we were given no say-so in whether or not this bill is passed or not. While I hope it's put on hold or at least stopped, because this bill should be placed in because we need peers of our own kind down here, and it should be reserved for low-wage to low-income home ownership. We have many people in this area who are trying to buy a home, but if it's stated and slated for the property for millionaires or people in that income bracket, it will serve no purpose for us down here. While there are many reasons why I oppose it, that is my strongest one, and that is what I feel so very passionately about. We Southfield.
The resident talked about that, and the other thing is I got some clarity and had a good conversation with her about the fundraising stuff.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm still talking.
I'm sorry about that.
That's right. I just want to say that I vehemently oppose the building of these homes given over to developers. We need an equal share. We need an equal say-so in the building of these homes. Thank you. I relinquish the rest of my time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Mr. President, just a point of personal privilege. I'm going to ask everybody who is on the line, because I don't know if it's coming out on your end, Mr. President, but someone needs to mute their mic if they are not speaking. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. It did come through on my, yes, I heard it. Mr. Decker, go ahead.
The next speaker is Annette Randolph, commenting on 210142.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Annette Randolph.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Annette Randolph, and my husband, Dennis, whom has retired from the Army, we reside here at 2012 Ellsworth Street, where I am the co-block captain. I have been and are a permanent address for 61 years and have seen this neighborhood do a dramatic change. I am opposing this bill, 210142. I am requesting, pleading for low-wage home ownership for low-wage working families like my daughter and son, whom works very hard and have children whom would love to have their own homes, bedrooms, backyards, basements, and a home that they can look to say they own a home from hard work. Please stop looking straight without realizing we have another generation that is here and is still coming, and they look to us as well as voting. I thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
The next speaker is Moses Cotton, commenting on 2102.
He is not on the line.
The next speaker is Zaichik.
Good morning. My name is Jacob Zaichik, and I am the Community Advocacy Director with the American Heart Association and I am speaking in support of the resolution recognizing February 2021 as Heart Month and the continued work the American Heart Association has done to promote a healthy lifestyle and improve health outcomes in Philadelphia. First, I would like to thank Public Health Committee Chair Councilmember Cindy Bass and City Council for the introduction of this resolution. Heart disease continues to be the leading cause of death in Philadelphia, while depending on the zip code you reside in, there's a 20-year life expectancy difference. The American Heart Association is committed to addressing health inequities. That is why by 2024, we have committed to raise and invest more than $230 million specifically to address the barriers to achieving equitable health for all. Locally, we recently announced the Bernard J. Tyson Impact Fund, which is an $840,000 investment in local organizations addressing the social influencers of health in North Philadelphia. The American Heart Association is proud of our continued partnership and collaboration with City Council, the Department of Public Health, the School District of Philadelphia, and the City of Philadelphia. Together, we have implemented innovative approaches to improve health equity, including removing sugary drinks from children's meals, adding additional restrictions to tobacco retail licenses, making it more difficult for youth to become addicted to nicotine products, CPR trainings to help create a generation of potential lifesavers, and programs that improve access to healthier foods. We all know that there continues to be work needed to be done, and we are committed to working together to achieve equitable health for all in Philadelphia. Once again, I would like to thank Councilwoman Bass for the introduction of this resolution, and we look forward to the continued partnership and collaboration with the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Nina Ahmad, commenting on 210144.
Good morning. State your name for the record.
She's coming just a second. She's on.
Hello?
Good morning. Just state your name for the record and proceed
Hello?
with this morning. Hello? Can you hear us?
Hello?
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 Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Just proceed with your testimony. So is she connected?
She was. She dropped off twice. I think she may be having problems with her phone. I think she's trying to call right back in.
Okay.
If we can give her 30 more seconds.
Sure.
I believe you can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. Good morning. I would like to...
State your name.
This is Dr. Nina. Yeah, this is Dr. Nina Ahmed, and I'm here representing the Philadelphia chapter of the National Organization for Women. I'd like to thank Honorable Council President Darrell Clark and City Council members for this opportunity to provide public comments in support of Resolution 210144, calling on Congress to pass the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. I thank Council Member Kenyatta Johnson and all the co-sponsors for introducing this much-needed resolution. National Organization for Women is the grassroots arm of the women's movement and is dedicated to multi-use issue and multi-strategy approach to women's rights and the largest organization of feminist grassroots activists in the United States. Now condemns the racism that inflicts a double burden of race and sex discrimination on women of color. Seeing human rights as indivisible, we are committed to identifying and fighting against those barriers to equality and justice that are imposed by racism. A necessary step to permanently dismantle systemic racism is to acknowledge the promise of 40 acres and a mule that was never honored. Imagine how profoundly different the history of race relations in the United States would have been had this policy been implemented and enforced, and had the formerly enslaved actually had access to ownership of land, of property, and if they had the chance to build, accrue, and pass on wealth. Today, the barriers of wealth building still exist, as stated in H.R. 40. We also want to underscore a woman's right in this matter of reparations. because there have been some parts of slavery that Black women bore alone. The lack of significant data pertaining to the practice of exploiting the sexual vulnerability and reproductive capacity of enslaved women have led to African American women to yet acquire a coherent legal doctrine with which to address the modern manifestations of female slave sexual and reproductive abuse. We are requesting that analysis of the effects of female slave sexual and reproductive abuse be studied and incorporated into the modern slavery reparations movement in the United States. I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
There are no other speakers in the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. Let the record reflect, I believe Councilwoman Quinona Sanchez is present now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I was joining the mayor at a vaccine opening center, and you can imagine that is very important given the discussions we've been having. But I want to be recorded on the record.
Get those vaccines in arms, absolutely. Thank you. Let the record reflect that. Zero 140.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210141.
A resolution recognizing and honoring Philadelphia native Stephen Fulton on becoming the Junior Featherweight World Boxing Champion.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just quickly, Philadelphia has a history of boxing. Whether you talk about fighters like Muhammad Ali or Joe Frazier, both have Philadelphia roots. It is renowned that if you fight a Philadelphia fighter, you're in for a war. Well, I just wanted to recognize that tradition continues out of the 3rd district, actually, out of a district, a boxing group that represents Cool Boy Stephen. And he is now the champ, representing Philly in the tradition of Philly boxers. And for that, I move for a 6-punch combination and approval of this resolution.
Second.
Okay. Everybody duck. It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
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 Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Thank you, Councilman Jones. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210142.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1746 Annan Street, 2231, 2232, 2235, 2249, 2252, 2324 Cross Street, 2227 Vernon Street, 2224, 2256, 2305, 2309 Greenwood Street, 2230 Reed Street, 2318 Tasker Street, 2214, 2220, 2221, 2239, 2241, 2243, and 2315 Wilder Street, located in the 2nd Councilmanic District.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a motion on the resolution.
Council President, before I ask the motion on this resolution, I just want to give some background regarding my balanced approach in addressing the issue of affordable and workforce housing in the area in which I grew up in all my life, which is Point Breeze, South Philadelphia. These parcels of lands are is a part of a RFP for affordable and workforce housing in the Point Breeze area. 16 parcels are for affordable housing / workforce housing, and the other 4 are going for market rate. So it's a mixed income package that we're working with the developer for to make sure that we have some level of balanced housing in the Point Breeze community. And also the houses that are sold at 80% AMI. And so it's a balanced approach, but also just for the record that I want to state for the listeners as well and my colleagues in terms of my background and making sure that we have affordable and workforce housing and low-income housing in Point Breeze. We also are working with the Women's Revitalization Corporation, where we just did a proposal, an RFP for 33 houses in Point Breeze, and these are super low-income housing. Rent starting at $800, maxing out at $1,300, particularly to help individuals, primarily women, with children. That's with Nora Lichtash. And so we continue to look for affordable housing options in Point Breeze, and also remind individuals that I am the council person who passed a bill known as the extension to LOOP. That's the Long-Time Owner Occupants Program for long-term residents to have a lifetime tax abatement, not 10 years. If you live in a home in the Point Breeze community or any other community across the city of Philadelphia for more than 10 years. And actually, at one time, the bill stated that your taxes had to triple. We amended the bill now. They only have to increase either a half of percentage as it comes to your taxes increasing. And you can be eligible for that program if you live in your home for more than 10 years for the lifetime. So that's a lifetime tax abatement. And so I do want to address this narrative regarding my approach of making sure that we have a level of affordable and mixed income housing in the Point Breeze area. But this particular proposal has been worked very closely with the land bank, making sure that we have a balanced approach for affordable and workforce housing in Point Breeze. And so with that being said, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved in second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210144.
A resolution calling on Congress to pass the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act.
Okay, Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210145.
A resolution honoring Michael Mash on the occasion of his passing for a lifetime of dedicated service to the people of Philadelphia.
Here again recognizes Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210146.
A resolution calling on the National Football League to discontinue the practice of race norming in their concussion compensation program.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor of the resolution say aye.
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 Those opposed,
Aye.
and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 210147.
A resolution honoring and congratulating Dr. Carl June on his receipt of the Shared Dan David Prize for his work at the University of Pennsylvania, where he was a lead researcher in the development of the first personalized cellular therapy for cancer.
Chair recognizes Councilman Don.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed,
Aye.
ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210149.
A resolution honoring and congratulating the 2020-2021 Philadelphia Youth Poet Laureate, Cindy Brown, for her creativity, community work, and dedication to serving Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to say congratulations to her and the entire Arts and Culture Task Force for the great work that they've been doing. She is an amazing talent who's already making the city of Philadelphia proud and will be one of our staple young people moving forward. So I, with a great amount of joy, move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 210150.
A resolution recognizing the week of February 14, 2021 to February 20, 2021 as the first Black Girl Freedom Week to celebrate and honor Black girls and the unique challenges they face, as well as to invest in their safe, free, and successful futures.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. As a Black girl, I am proud to move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210151.
A resolution honoring and congratulating Deborah Archer for her new position as the first Black president of the American Civil Liberties Union.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, as a Black girl, a Black woman, I'm honored to move for the motion to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor say aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210153.
Resolution recognizing and honoring Philadelphia artist, musician, and anti-violence activist Michael O.G. Law Taban for his 15 years of work and advocacy on behalf of returning citizens, victims of crime, and disadvantaged youth in Philadelphia.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, can you please read the title of bill number 200617?
An ordinance authorizing an initial 10-year conversion of the current term with up to 2 5-year renewal terms for a lease agreement the city has entered into with the First Tee of Greater Philadelphia for operating, managing, and maintaining the John F. Byrne Golf Course.
This bill having been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye. I'm sorry.
Councilman Dobb.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gims.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinona Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution authorizing the committees on finance and on gun violence prevention to hold joint hearings regarding the connection between poverty, gun violence, and systemic racism in Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Green.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. This is an issue that this body has been focusing on for some time. Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson has been very focused on this issue for some time, and chair of the Special Committee on Gun Violence, as well as Councilmember Curtis Jones, who's the chair of our Public Safety Committee, as well as Councilmember Jamie Gaultier, who recently joined National League of Cities on a issue regarding this concern, and all members of council have been very focused on this issue. We know that we had a horrific statistic last year that we reached 499 homicides, the highest since 1990. Already this year, we're at a 42% increase over last year's very horrific number. And it was actually someone that's been working on this issue for some time, Bilal Qayyum, who many of you know has been very active in working, trying to address gun violence and violence in our city. But also, he also worked for the city in the Commerce Department. And in conversations, we talked about the connection between the homicides and gun violence in our city, and also the lack of African-American businesses and the growth of businesses and the connection of systemic racism between that issue. And when you think about in the city of Philadelphia, only 6% of businesses with employees are owned by African-Americans in the city of Philadelphia. And during the height of the pandemic, that was a 68% reduction in the number of active Black business owners in our city compared to a 44% reduction for white business owners. So this connection between the issues of gun violence and homicide and poverty and the lack of growth of businesses is something I think there's a need to have a further examination. I want to thank all of my colleagues for co-sponsoring this resolution, and I move for its adoption.
Second? Second. Thank you. Been moved to properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our calendar for today. We will move to our speeches. And just like to say for the record, prior to recognizing members regarding speeches, I will note for the record at the time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this purpose. With that said, are there any speeches on behalf of the minority? I believe Council Member Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to thank my colleagues, council members, Jamie Gaultier, Catherine Gilmore Richardson, Derek Green, Helen Kim, Sherelle Parker, and Isaiah Thomas for co-sponsoring the resolution that I introduced today, calling on the Biden administration to cancel student debt and begin the transition to education as a public good. Our higher education system is at a breaking point, as even entry-level jobs require one, if not multiple degrees. Our community members are going into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to land jobs that provide little more than a minimum wage. And the data is clear. Debt cancellation is racial justice. I personally have struggled with student loan debt, and I have seen firsthand the impact it has on generational wealth. And I worry about my children also going into debt for their education. Black borrowers take out loans at a far higher rate than our white counterparts. And this widens the racial wealth gap, and it makes it exceedingly difficult for our communities of color to purchase homes and live stable, self-fulfilled lives. While the pandemic has laid bare the systemic inequities in our society, it has also helped us to expand our ideas of what is possible. And it has shown us a world without evictions, without utility shutoffs, and where people's basic needs like food and shelter are met. And it has shown us a world without student loan payments and compound interest rates. As we look towards Philadelphia's recovery, we need to be creative and bold with our solutions. As the poorest, biggest city in the country, we need people-centered policies that lift people out of poverty and ease their financial burden. Full debt cancellation will help us close the racial wealth gap. stimulate the economy, and reduce unnecessary suffering at a time when our communities have already endured so much. And I want to thank the Debt Collective and their advocacy and leadership, especially Jalil Bishop, whose research on student debt and systemic racism in Philadelphia inspired this resolution. And I want to thank again Council President and thank you, Council colleagues.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you so much for always being focused on those in need. Speeches on behalf of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilman Down.
Thank you, Council President. I wanted to speak briefly regarding the introduction of Bill number 210121. As the chair knows, and the other members of the committee know, I voted against this bill moving out of committee. I just want to explain my vote and make one simple request of the administration, and that is before next week's final vote, please show us the plan. The administration is asking us to hand over another big check for our city's responses to COVID, $50 million. But on Monday, we really didn't receive a lot of details around how that money would be spent. And I know a lot of us have asked for more details on the city's vaccination operations. In fact, during last week's hearing, I know council members asked for additional data on the number of vaccines being distributed by location, zip code, and other information on who exactly we're vaccinating. I think everything we're asking for is reasonable, including the plan I've requested. My concern at this point is simple. We lack a detailed plan, a plan that lays out goals and timelines, a plan that explains exactly what we're doing, when, and how we're doing it. And until we have those plans in place, I can't justify handing over another large check to the administration. On Monday, our committee, led by Chairperson Quinona Sanchez, had an open and very transparent conversation about this vote. And I really appreciated her willingness to consider my perspective on this. I know she's working to get us the information we need so we all can be comfortable with our vote next week. But I want to be clear, I can't vote for this without some knowledge or confidence in the administration's plan to spend this additional $50 million. The Philly Special Coalition called for a plan that was big and bold enough to vaccinate our citizens quickly and restore equity through a vaccination system that is vaccinating white neighborhoods twice as fast as communities of color. 1 week ago, this body, we voted 16-1. We passed a resolution to put the Philly Special Plan in place to ramp up drive-through mass vaccination sites at Lincoln Financial Field, the Mann Center, our largest black churches, and large outdoor parking lots in every section of the city. We were told as recently as a week ago that the link and these other large outdoor venues did not make sense. And the quote is, the administration said using the link as a site is not feasible at the moment because it's due to the shortages in vaccine supplies the city is being allocated. If and when the city begins to get substantially more doses of the vaccine, using Lincoln Financial Field as a vaccination site may be considered. This was 1 week ago. Yesterday, the administration changed their tune. These are the words used yesterday, just 2 days ago, at the weekly COVID-19 meeting. And I quote, "We are more or less at the point now where the greatest limiting factor is not the number of doses we receive, but just our own capacity to administer them through all the different organizations that are administering them through the city." So I want to be clear. I want to get this straight. A week ago, we didn't need to ramp up capacity because we weren't getting enough doses. Now, 1 week later, we have run out of the capacity to move the doses we're currently getting. The same day, we were told we have run out of vaccine distribution capacity. Pfizer and Moderna announced that an additional 220 million doses of vaccine will be available in March. Johnson & Johnson has already said that 100 million of its one-shot vaccinations will be distributed in June. To my fellow council members, if we're currently limited, not by the number of doses we get, but by our capacity to distribute them, this is why we need a plan today to increase capacity. In the coming week and before we vote, I'd like the administration to come to us with a detailed plan for how they'll be able to escalate the vaccination distribution through current channels and additional channels. I know I've been very outspoken about the use of Lincoln Financial Field and other large neighborhood locations, but it's only because I believe we have to think bigger and be bolder about our future level of distribution so we're ready to go on day one. The call for a plan is also a call for transparency. Last week, when we were informed of the FEMA Type 1 site coming to the Pennsylvania Convention Center, the commissioner said many of the details were still being worked out. But in a city with a black population of 44%, currently receiving less than 20% of our vaccines, putting our only federal mega site within walking distance of 195,000 center city residents, 67% of them who are white, presents its own unique challenges to ensure racial equity. So we need to see a real plan of action for how we're targeting the very people we need to get to the convention center in the next 6 weeks. We need a transit plan, a parking plan, a zip code targeting effort, and we need to see outreach plans that include trusted community partners. My vote earlier this week against moving $50 million of CARES dollars to the general fund was one more attempt to try to get the administration to give us a plan, a clear path forward to vaccinating 100,000 people per week when those doses reach this level, which could be next month, and it's still not too late. The Philly Special Plan can be that plan. It was 10 drive-through mega sites, one in each council-manager district, including a FEMA Type 1 drive-through mega site at Lincoln Financial Field, capable of shooting over 10,000 doses per day at 70,000 per week. All these sites link to a web platform that registers and schedules all vaccine appointments by zip code, ensuring the racial equity. If not this plan, then show us one that can achieve levels of dosing and timetables that match the supply levels set by the vaccine companies and the Biden administration. I applaud our health partners, community leaders, faith leaders, universities, groups like the Black Doctors Fighting COVID, and other nonprofits, all who have stepped up to confront the health crisis of our time. This is the health crisis of our generation. They will understand, as we do, that the sooner we get people vaccinated, the sooner we can safely bring people back to work and students back to school, and the sooner we can bring back our way of life, the better it is for everyone in the city. But without a plan in place, it's unclear what we're holding the administration accountable for accomplishing these next few months. That is why, for the sake of the city, we have to continue to look at this critically and ensure every dime we spend is maximized. I don't think I'm being unreasonable in my request to the administration, and before we vote next week, I'm hopeful the administration will come through with an operational plan that we all feel comfortable with moving forward. I think it's important that we ask the questions we've all been asking, all of us, and it's imperative to the process that the administration answer them. But until then, without a plan, I am a no vote. My fellow council members, I've never been more passionate about anything other than this. This is a moment in time for all of us. We are facing the health crisis of our generation. We will all be judged as to what we did to ensure the citizens of this city receive the potential life-saving vaccinations as fast and as equitably as possible. We must take this crisis as an opportunity, the opportunity to show our constituents that we met the moment with a boldness of plan and a thoughtfulness in execution. This is what they deserve and have a right to demand from all of us. Thank you for the time today, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. Can you guys hear me good?
Yes, sir.
A little echo. Okay. So first, Council President, I just want to let you know that we got some positive feedback about the Clark and Thomas Sports Show already. So thank you, Councilmember Green, for your recommendation. Apparently, the public heard it, and we've already received some positive rave reviews. But I want to actually start by echoing the sentiments of my colleague, Councilmember Dom, in joining him on a choir of saying we need a plan. I, too, was in the appropriations hearing this past week. And outside of that appropriations hearing, I also had an opportunity to join Council Members Brooks and Gim, whose leadership I appreciate, to stand outside a little bit with some of the people who were at the 24-hour vaccination site that the Black Doctors Consortium put together. And I got a chance to talk to some folks. And I think that personal narratives are important where you could talk to people, but I actually asked them to document their experience. So I want to take a moment, and I don't normally do this, but I want to take a moment to talk about what somebody who I'm going to call Mr. B said as it relates to standing in line at the vaccination site. So Mr. B, and I'm not going to read it verbatim because it's very, very long, but Mr. B talked about the fact that it was freezing cold out there, freezing temperatures, right? Mr. B talked about how he had on his gloves. He talked about how poorly the city did not support the Black Doctors Consortium. He talked about parking citations, and I vividly remember in our hearing bringing up the PPA and issues with parking. He talked about people getting parking citations. He talked about people being worried about parking. He talked about the difficulties to go to the bathroom. He talked about type of vending, meals not available, nothing in a sense of hot food. But at the end of the day, after all that, he closed out by saying he was thankful to get the vaccination. He was so appreciative of the Black Doctors Consortium, of them stepping up to the plate, but so disappointed in the city of Philadelphia as it relates to the lack of plan and the lack of planning surrounding anticipating the fact that he said thousands of people is what it felt like to him being out there for 6 hours in the freezing cold with essentially no support at all. So when Councilmember Dom says that we need a plan, it's examples like who I'm calling Mr. B and several dozen other people who I had an opportunity unfortunate opportunity to meet while they were standing outside for hours this past weekend. But then there's also similar to the conversations that I had with members of District Council 33, who this past week talked about the fact that they have absolute no plan, no indication, no communication as it relates to when their employees will be vaccinated. And they've been frontline essential workers since the start of this pandemic, which is almost a year, which was almost a year ago. So I think that when we're screaming and hollering this communication issue and this sense of urgency that's needed around the vaccination, you know, I'm going to put on my Marvel superhero kid hat and say, listen, we have the cure, right? Like, this is the cure. People want access to the cure. People want to be relieved of that anxiety, and they want to put themselves in a position where they can have some level of norm after all the trauma and negative experiences that we've all faced over the last year. So thank you, Councilmember Dom. I appreciate your leadership and your advocacy on this issue, as well as other members of council, and it's a huge problem. I also want to take a moment to thank my colleague and fellow millennial member of council, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, who I've been working with for months now as it relates to the work of the Disadvantaged Communities Task Force. It's an honor to introduce the Illuminating the Arts bill today, which we announced earlier this week. I also appreciate all of my other colleagues who've been working in collaboration with the Arts and Culture Task Force to put us in a position to try to create some level of stimulus dollars, but more importantly, some level of hope as it relates to this legislative body and our focus specifically with the arts and culture community, and other council members who've been doing this work long before I got here, like Councilmember Green, Councilmember Squilla, Councilmember O, and I probably missed one or two. I appreciate you, appreciate your work and your support with the task force, and of course, Council President, I appreciate you. I know I'm a little long with it, but I still got to keep going. I apologize. We actually had a very important hearing yesterday as it relates to hit and runs, and the hearing was rather lengthy, but also rather informative, and we were able to hear from experts and different opinions as it relates to what we need to do around this issue. But I think most people who were in the hearing would agree that the most heart-wrenching testimony was from the victims, the victims and the families who've lost loved ones to hit and runs in the city of Philadelphia. And I know for me, it was very emotional to hear from Reverend Evans and her talk about the tragic loss of her son. And what was even more discouraging was the lack of response from the city of Philadelphia and a lack of action. And I think Reverend Evans spoke for dozens of citizens across the city of Philadelphia who have been victims of what we know to be in 2020, more deaths, more fatalities through hit and runs than what we've seen in over a decade. So when we talk about the different issues that we have across the city, one of the things that came out of the hearing was that we need capital investment in infrastructure. That was a direction that we need to go to. And as I left the hearing, it began to really sink in me like, wow, we need capital investment in a lot of things. So I think it was Councilmember Green who in one of our hearings earlier this week said that he was calling on the administration to be innovative as it relates to how we approach this budget season. And I'm going to go ahead and echo his sentiments today in council. I too am calling on the administration to be very innovative as it relates to us moving into budget season. We need capital investments in infrastructure. We need capital investments in our schools. Clearly, that's a problem that we're facing as it relates to trying to get folks returning to schools. We have a huge gun violence problem in the city of Philadelphia. And I know me personally, I've been begging the administration to be innovative as it relates to how we invest into prevention-based initiatives. And when you look at that achievement gap that we're going to have as it relates to virtual learning and us being unprepared for that, on top of the gun violence epidemic that we see in Philadelphia right now, it's imperative that we see innovation as it relates to this budget cycle. And we see the administration hopefully lead the way as it relates to putting dollars and resources into places and in neighborhoods that can really put some holes in some of these problems that we're complaining about. And unfortunately, if the administration doesn't lead the way, I am very confident in this council body working together to redistribute dollars in the city of Philadelphia to help move those who are suffering the most. Council President, colleagues, thank you so much. I apologize for being long-winded, but I do appreciate your patience.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the past, when any ethnic group was attacked, the people that took the greatest offense weren't from the particular ethnic group involved. So my Asian colleagues stepped up to the plate when Muslims were attacked. My Christian colleagues stepped up to the plate when Jewish cemeteries were attacked. And what sent the best signal in my mind was that non-impacted ethnic groups stood shoulder to shoulder with their counterparts from other parts of the culture. Today I rise because of the lack of understanding that some people have when they put on a menu that they want to have COVID-19 mac and cheese and giving an Asian flavoring to it. It's not funny. I'm putting you on notice. It's not funny. If you've ever been to the Holocaust Museum, if you've ever been to Lest We Forget in the 8th Councilmatic District talking about slavery, people hid their racist intent behind humor. Ha ha, he, he. As a member of the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, we've noted that in the country, there have been close to 3,000 attacks on Asian Americans since COVID-19. Once again, here's the memo. It's not funny. It's not acceptable. And I take offense just as hard as anyone from the Chinese or Asian community that if it's done to them, it is done to all of us. So whether you don't get the memo about how insensitive something like that can be, take note. Take note today, and please let us kind of understand and view these humorous attempts through the other person's lens, because it's just not funny. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I wanted to start actually first by recognizing the Black Doctors Consortium. Awesome job, awesome job, awesome job with what they did with vaccinating over 4,000 people last weekend. But I agree. The question is, where is the city of Philadelphia? Where is the administration? And this is not to attack or, beat anyone up. But we need to do better. Our constituents deserve it. They need it. This is something that is life-saving, and there's really no reason with a city with a nearly $5 billion budget that we haven't done better by our most vulnerable constituents. So I did want to say that for the record. I also wanted to take time to highlight the creativity and passion of our Philadelphians and Philadelphia-based organizations in tackling highly important issues within our city. And first, I wanted to recognize Cody Anderson, who passed away on Saturday. He was an iconic leader in Black media for decades. He was the first general manager of WURD, the only African-American owned and operated talk radio station in Pennsylvania. He was the president and general manager of WDAS FM 105.3 FM and the owner and general manager of WHAT 1340 AM. He was also a member of Canaan Baptist Church of Germantown in my district. And Cody was well known by his colleagues as a beloved host, mentor, and friend. He used radio not only for music and talk, but also to discuss Black political power and Black-owned and operated radio. Many people who entered radio broadcasting attribute the start of their career and the existence of Black radio in Philadelphia to Cody. And so he will truly be missed. I counted him as a mentor, as a friend, and we're really going to miss him. I think the last time I spoke to him was a few weeks ago, Council President Clark, when I called into your radio show with Cody and you, and it was a great time. I'm glad that I called in that day. I'm glad I was able to have that experience. And that was, unfortunately, our last conversation together. But until we meet again, to my good friend Cody Anderson, he will be missed. I also wanted to make mention that February is National African American Reading Month, and it's the nation's first and oldest event dedicated to diversity in literature. Dr. Ebony Elizabeth Thomas, Associate Professor at the University of Pennsylvania Graduate School of Education, leads the Humanizing Stories Project, which is celebrating Black History Month and African American Reading Month by highlighting new and classic books from the African American diaspora. Recommendations can be submitted to the @HealingFictions Twitter account. And again, that's @HealingFictions Twitter. In Philadelphia, I also want to make note that heart disease is a leading cause of death and takes lives at a higher rate here than any other big city in the country. This month is American Heart Month, and I want to recognize the American Heart Association, who has collaborated with many local Philadelphia organizations to provide free healthy meals and produce, health education resources, blood pressure screenings, bystander CPR education, and quality health care, which has improved many lives in our city. As someone who has suffered with heart disease and has a history of it within our family, as I won't say most, but a lot of African Americans have this very, very frightening concern and issue within our families. It's not a joke. It's not to be played with. It needs routine care. It needs, medication in some cases. And so we thank the American Heart Association for all that they do, particularly in the African-American community, which has higher rates of death and heart disease than in most other places. So we need to pay attention to that as well. And finally, I wanted to mention the resolution we did earlier today on period poverty, which refers to the inadequate access to menstrual products, hygiene products, clean water, and waste management systems. Period poverty affects women around the globe, forcing them to resort to socks, stuffed animals, and other makeshift menstrual products. Philadelphians Lynette Medley and Nia McLone face period poverty themselves, and this year they have established the SPOT period, which is believed to be the first menstrual hub in the nation. The SPOT period provides free menstrual and hygiene products, educational resources and seminars, access to clean water and toiletries, a computer room a computer room, first period kits, and a Brianna Taylor safe room to serve as a sanctuary for marginalized women. The spot period, located in Germantown, will be open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 12 to 8 Wednesday, and by appointment on Saturday throughout the pandemic. And so, and as a woman, period poverty is something that, may, I think, make men uncomfortable. But as a woman, I can tell you that every woman has been there, every woman. And even if you take away the poverty section of the word period, of the words period poverty, if you could imagine being somewhere, anywhere, at work, at a function, at an event, and having a cycle begin without having the proper products, for a woman, it is terrifying. And it happens routinely. This is not something that is uncommon. And so I really thank them for bringing attention to it, that we're finally able to have these conversations about it, and that we continue to have conversations to make people aware that this is yet another thing that as women we have to deal with, that really for the most part, I don't think that most people or most men probably have any inkling whatsoever that this is an issue. It's a huge issue. And so for women, I think that having the spot period is just going to be a great thing for our city and hopefully as a model throughout our country. So I want to thank you, Cody Anderson. I want to thank Dr. Thomas. I want to thank the American Heart Association of Philadelphia. I want to thank Lynette and Naya for your service to your community and making a difference in the lives of Philadelphians every day. And Cody, again, we're going to miss you. Many thanks to all who have contributed. And until we meet again, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you so much. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. First and foremost, I want to thank my colleagues, specifically yourself, Council President, Council Member Jamie Gaudier, Councilman Curtis Jones, Councilman Derek Green, Councilman Cindy Bass, Council Member Kathleen Gilmore Richardson, Councilman Alan Dime, Councilwoman Helen Gim, Council Member Kendra Brooks, Councilman Bobby Heenan, Council Member Sherelle Parker, and Councilman Isaiah Thomas for supporting my resolution number 210144, calling on Congress to pass House Resolution 40, which will establish a commission to study reparations and also look at recommendations for providing reparations to the African American community. In this day and age, when we talk about institutional racism, we talk about issues of social justice, we have literally, particularly as African American people, have built this country from 1619 to this current present day and time. And so I want to thank the National Coalition for Blacks for Reparations and COBRA for supporting this effort. And also our President of the United States, President Biden, also supports the creation of this commission. When we look at the health disparities that we're facing today, the housing disparities that we're facing today, the economic development disparities that we're facing today, the educational disparities that we are facing today, all goes back to how this country was set up and this country was built. And when you talk about not only slavery, but Jim Crow, to the current issues that we're fighting today around criminal justice reform, and why my colleague, Councilman Derek Green, wants to look at how institutional racism impacts our society and how we look at the issues around gun violence. It all comes down to us addressing the issues of how do we right the wrongs of how this country has been built, and particularly have been having a significant impact on how we have moved forward in this country as African American people. And so I just want to thank all my colleagues for their co-sponsorship of the resolution, and just want to take a moment and personally say thank you. Well, another resolution I introduced is around the National Football League, and that's way out of our purview. I'm not
WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Sport teams in my district, but again, we talk about institutional racism, and every day we begin to commercialize what it is to be black. And I saw how the NFL committed $250 million to address the issues of institutional and systematic racism, but yet you have a policy in place called racial norming for individuals who are impacted through concussions and playing sports, which to me just goes toward you're putting your dollars up saying that you're standing up and speaking out regarding an issue, but yet you have policies in place that are discriminatory. And so I thank my colleagues for passing that resolution, but I wanted to go on a record on those two particular resolutions as relates to how we address systematic and institutional racism, because in some instances, I think it becomes a cliche in this day and age right now. Everybody all of a sudden now is fighting for social justice. Everybody has a specific concern around African Americans, which I believe is great in terms of our day and times, but also we want to make sure that there's some substance around the very issues that we are fighting for, because these issues are impacting our very country, but most importantly, African Americans and people of alike in our city. So I just want to state that for the record. And thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you so much. Looks like that concludes our speeches for today. We have the minority and the majority, and with that, I'd like to recognize Councilman Jones for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Council stand adjourned until Thursday, March 4th, 2021 at 10 a.m.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. Council stand adjourned until Thursday, March 4th, 2021, 10 a.m. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Thank you all very much. Thank you again for another good session.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Nice job. Speak it out.
All right, you just tuned into a full session of the Philadelphia City Council, or a session of the whole that is taking place here live on WURD, on WURD. It's our City Council Live edition. That happens every Thursday. We're going to take a break. When we come back on the other side, we head into the noon hour with phone lines open at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Feel free to call in, and we'll talk to you after this break.
WURD Radio is independent black media, and we're able to stay independent because of our forward movement and members like you.
Treat yourself to the treat of buying a WURD membership. It's less than a quarter a day. That's less than a bag of chips. And we really, truly need to keep this platform going so that we can stay connected as we reimagine our community in 2021.
Start or renew your forward membership today at wordradio.com/forward or call 215-425-7875. WURD Radio. Independent black media. The WURD Radio newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax-Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the WURD Radio newsletter. WURD Radio celebrates Black History Month with Black Artist Story 365. Brought to you by AARP, Thomas Jefferson, and New Voices for Reproductive Justice.
Welcome to Black Artist Story 365. My name is Envy McKee. Get into this episode where we explore the art and artistry of Trinidadian American, Tony Award-winning actor, voice actor, singer, dancer, composer, choreographer, costume designer, visual artist, and director, Jeffrey Holder. Part 1. King Star Uncle Jeffrey was an August Leo, born Jeffrey Lamont Holder of Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, the youngest of 5 children of Louise de France and Arthur Holder, who had immigrated from Barbados. Bosco Holder taught Jeffrey painting and dancing and recruited him to join a small folkloric dance troupe he had formed, the Holder Dancing Company. Bosco was 16, listen, and Jeffrey was 7. Okay? When Bosco left for London, Jeffrey was left in charge of the dance company as its director and lead performer. Soon after arriving in Brooklyn, he joined the Katherine Dunham's dance school, where he taught folkloric forms for 2 years. From 1955 to 1956, he performed with the Metropolitan Opera Ballet as a principal dancer. He left the ballet to make his Broadway debut in the Harold Arlen and Truman Capote musical House of Flowers. While working on House of Flowers, he met Alvin Ailey, with whom he later worked extensively, and his future wife and muse, Carmen de Lavalade. After the show closed, he starred in an all-black production of Waiting for Godot in 1957. As a choreographer, because you know he's got all them lists of things that he was masterful at, Holder created dance pieces for many companies, including Alvin Ailey, American Dance Theater, for which he provided choreography, music, and costumes for Prodigal Prince in 1967, and the Dance Theater of Harlem, for which he provided choreography, music, and costumes for Douglas in 1974. He was director, costume designer, and choreographer, as we mentioned, in The Wiz in 1974. And in 1978, he directed and choreographed the Broadway musical Timbuktu. So that's it for this episode of Black Artist Story 365. My name is Envy McKee. To hear more, tune in to The Envy McKee Show, Friday nights, 7 to 10 p.m., right here on WURD.
Black Artist Story 365 was brought to you by AARP Pennsylvania, Thomas Jefferson, and New Voices for Reproductive Justice.
Tune in every Saturday at 4 p.m. for the Did You Know Show with host Bryant Green, right here on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD.
Buying something from a dealer just sounds a bit, well, put it like this. My cousin Ray Ray got arrested for buying something from a dealer. So why would you want to buy your car from a dealer? Hi, everybody. This is Nick inviting you to buy your next car from Jerry over at Cardex. See, they're not dealers. They're like a car concierge service. They design a car around you. Almost any make. If it's not on the lot, they'll go out and get it for you. So use my car concierge, where I've already bought 4 cars. Cardex at 116 East Glenside Avenue in Glenside, Pennsylvania. Check them out online at cardexinc.com. Or call Cardex at 215-886-3230.
This is WURD Radio. 96.1 FM. And 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, we are now post City Council Live. This Thursday edition of Reality Check always captures City Council Live. I'm the anchor for City Council Live, Charles Ellison. You can catch me on Twitter at Ellison Report if you can. Twitter.com. It is hashtag City Council Live. Hashtag City Council Live. Covered a little bit there at hashtag City Council Live if you go to Twitter.com. Actually got a couple of comments from folks on Twitter.com and also on Facebook Live. Some real smart, sharp analysis from our listeners, from our viewers here of WURD Radio and also WURD TV as well. Phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. We've got pretty much a full hour of open phone lines until we conclude this Thursday edition of Reality Check / City Council Live. 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. And basically something of an organic or informal extension of the public comment period that does take place in City Council. We definitely heard quite a few public comments on 2 specific bills. I'll get into that in a moment. Some folks did comment on that, or I did see 1 or 2 comments, I believe. I'll go to it in a second on our Facebook live stream at facebook.com/forward. We'll talk about that. Maybe you have some reaction to that as well. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. There was quite a bit of residential objection opposition to Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson's resolution number 210142, and that would be authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 20 different properties. I'm not going to go across those properties, but essentially authorizing Philadelphia Land Bank to sell those properties. That was a controversy over that. Some residents reacted to it, did not take kindly to Councilmember Johnson introducing this bill, and were opposing it during public comment period. That's what public comment, we had a lot of participation in public comment period. That's what I'm talking about. People had concerns, and I feel, just kind of inserting a little bit of my opinion here, and I feel well-placed concerns regarding how the city is tackling, or not, the issue of affordable housing or lack thereof. The lack of truly affordable housing for low-income, working income folk in the city of Philadelphia, figuring out ways to expand or build on that legacy of low-income family home ownership. And, they're just feeling like they weren't informed, that they weren't notified that this was going to be taking place, that this authorization was going to be taking place, this sale to developers. The councilman did talk about that. He remarked on that, saying that, this is part of his ongoing balanced approach to creating affordable housing and also workforce housing as well. He claims that these properties, this collection of properties, will be used to develop a mix of affordable housing, workforce housing. He did use the term mixed income. There's a lot of skepticism in recent years around the use of that term. People tend to see that as something of a gateway to gentrification. Gentrification is a very volatile issue in a city like Philadelphia. So a lot of residents coming out. I don't think I think that sort of took it may have taken the councilman off guard. And it was funny watching the basically two bills that were commented on or remarked on during the public comments section of City Council were both bills that were introduced by Councilman Kenyatta Johnson. A lot of opposition to 210142, but at the same time he had introduced 210144, which was essentially a resolution just calling on Congress, the U.S. Congress, to pass the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act, otherwise known as H.R. 40. So there's absolutely nothing that the City Council, the Philadelphia City Council, can do to push Congress to finally pass H.R. 40. This is just a sense of the City Council, but it's just very interesting. Like maybe I'm not sure exactly what happened there. I guess he was thinking that, okay, well, I'm going to get a lot of support, and a lot of people did come out in support of 210144 regarding the passage of that congressional bill. Maybe didn't expect at the same time as he was introducing that, he's introducing 210142, the sale of these various properties in Philadelphia. Didn't expect the backlash from residents who felt like they were not notified, that they didn't have a chance to really respond to or assess exactly what the impact of those sales would be. So we did have one person on, Josephine Wilson, who's a viewer on WURD TV, who was saying on our Facebook Live page, now the city is trying to sneak and take black people's nice homes around 19th and Master to Montgomery. These are new houses, and taxes went up to $3,000. This is a high crime area, horrible schools. I don't like this term. I can't use this term that she used, but basically stores that aren't black owned. They want these houses for white people. Most of the residents are average working black people. These taxes need to be reevaluated ASAP. So, people have some very raw feelings, and rightfully so, about being economically displaced and having a lack of access to affordable housing. And Philadelphia City Council and just city officials in general are going to have to do a much better job of directly communicating with residents what their plan is with respect to affordable housing. That's something that I noticed Councilmember Johnson did not address in his comments or his remarks responding to the opposition to his bill. because many people said, hey, we were not informed about this. He didn't address that, I noticed, in his comments. You know, what kind of conversation are you as a city council member, whether it's Kenyatta Johnson or anyone else, what kind of conversation are, like real serious, in-depth conversations and also collaboration are you having with your residents to help navigate them through this affordable housing crisis? And obviously it's a pandemic happening now, which exacerbates everything. Let me go to the phone lines. Jamila out of North Philly is calling in for a reality check. Jamila, how are you doing? Good afternoon.
Hey, Charles. Good morning. Well, good afternoon now. Yeah, how are you?
All right, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. And to the audience, you know, I always encourage people to listen to City Council. When we were able to go to City Council, Mary Mason, a former host on this station, used to always encourage us to keep a scorecard. Keep a scorecard.
I grew up with her. No, I grew up with her, yeah.
And to go back and check. These numbers are being thrown around in City Council, and I'm thankful for you to keep us with these numbers up to date with them. But I want to go back to one related to housing. This wholesaling bill, Bill 200-544, swiftly run through City Council. Not a lot of people opposed or even supporting, okay? But allowing the same people who put abandoned signs up on our polls, mostly in emerging, I'm going to say, all these signs that are all over our communities, the phone calls we receive, now they even have our text numbers, okay?
Yeah, they do.
These same people are allowed now with a $200 licensing fee, no really concrete level of enforcement, like the anti-solicitation list. You know, who's going to enforce if someone does call us, if our name is on the list? How do we tell the managing director that we are receiving a lot of mail from these same people? Now these folks are, with a little disclosure statement, you know, this bill is such a mess. I can't even attack all of the areas which it does not protect us. They even allow people who are formerly have a felon, if it's less than 6 years, they can do this wholesaling. You know, I just think it unleashed such an element on unsuspecting homeowners, and the folks need to be clear. I'm getting all kinds of notices. I'm getting all kinds of calls. So this bill is supposed to go into effect this month. And even with the signs in the window saying you're not going to move and you do not want to be solicited, one of our colleagues had a sign on his door, a hang tag on his door. I'm telling you, this is a bill that really unleashes an element of predatory behavior on homeowners like you wouldn't believe. So in addition to selling off properties and giving away properties and doing all of these strange maneuvers as it relates to real estate, you know, really, as a professional, I say they don't make any sense at all. You know, affordable housing, workforce housing, all these names of types of housing. All we're talking about is housing and shelter, you know, and we want to keep our equity and all of that. But these bills and what's going on in City Council is almost like we're in a maze or something where, you know, right is right. I mean, right is wrong and wrong is right. Like, you know, it's hard to really get a handle on it. That, along with all the crime and how it's handled, it's amazing to me. You know, I kind of back off sometimes to keep my own health and sanity.
No,
just observe it to make sure I'm seeing this right and that I'm hearing it right. And I listen to others as they talk about what's going on in our city. It's like the blind is leading the blind. It's amazing to me to watch.
It's done. I mean, it's deliberately designed in such a way too. It's done in a very clinical, very formal fashion to make it seem like it's normal, that it's not unusual, that it's innocent, and it's not. And that's why we have to pay very close attention as best we can, because it is difficult. I mean, trying to keep track of it all and making sure we don't miss a beat here. But you're absolutely right, Ms. Jamila. I have to let you go so I can take on some other calls here. But thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. And that's something where definitely the city council is going to have to work better on that. Sister Murray out of Northern Liberties is calling in for a reality check. Sister Murray?
Hey, Charles, how are you?
How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for taking my call. And to all the WURD families and the listeners, to every negative side, there's a positive side. And the young woman who was just on the phone about the property and the taxes and all these things. Charles, I'm going to share this briefly and quick. There's been a plan 30 years ago. We sat around. We're sitting on a pot of gold. We grew up in Philadelphia, North Philly, born and raised. We refused to do anything about it. Every time we seen a blank, a tooth missing on each block, hey, it's okay. And it just grew and grew and grew till you got a whole block of empty teeth. The mouth is empty. So how do you get back what you looked at and accept it? Because you accepted this. So stop blaming the world, society. Yes, they had a 30-year plan. It's hitting now. They're taking back over North Philly. White people moving in. You're going to see new schools when it's all white. Understand that. What's wrong with you? Why you can't see and project what's happening? I'm much younger, but yet I still know what's happening. You need to get in. You want to change something? Go to your block. Be a block captain. Get everybody on your block to buy that empty tooth, that space that's missing. And stop blaming everybody for your problem. Charles, it's a plan. It's been a plan. Now get with the program and stop at these council people and all this stuff on what they doing. Get in the program. You've been living there. You own that block. You can get that lot next to you for $1. Go downtown. Talk to the people. What's wrong with you? Charles, have a good day. God bless you.
You too. All right. Thank you. Thank you for those comments. You're absolutely right. I mean, I totally hear and agree with where you're coming from, Sister Murray. And it's a two-pronged approach. I mean, one, you have to continue to keep pressure on City Hall, on City Council, making sure that they are truly working in the interest of people who live in these communities, who live in neighborhoods like the neighborhoods we've grown up in, the neighborhoods we're still living in. But at the same time, yes, I mean, there are tools, there are methods, strategies that are at our disposal to make sure that we also protect those neighborhoods, that we're not displaced from those neighborhoods. And yeah, there is a plan. I mean, there is a comprehensive plan for managing growth and development in the city of Philadelphia. Check out the PHILA 2030. Go to PHILA2035.org to look at that plan. PHILA 2034. I'm sorry, PHILA 2035, the PHILA 2035 plan. So PHILA2035.org. To read up more on that plan. I believe that's the one you're talking about too, Sister Murray. Let me go to Vivian out of South Philly, who's calling in for a reality check.
All right. Bye-bye.
How you doing, Ms. Vivian?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, ma'am. How are you doing? Good afternoon.
Yes, my name is Vivian Burbidge, and I was one of the speakers this morning expressing my discontent about House Bill number
210142, introduced by Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson. Yeah, I remember your voice. Yeah, thanks for calling in. And thank you for that testimony. Thank you for participating in public comment and providing testimony, Ms. Vivian. I appreciate you for doing that.
Yes, I'm really disappointed in our Councilman Johnson for not even giving us a say-so in this. I feel as though it was a done deal, but we will fight on because the struggle still goes on. Myself and many others as his constituents being down here for more than 60 years. I have family down here. I have family members who are looking for affordable housing. And just to say that it was done already without even giving us a chance, that's all the chance. It makes you so angry, Charles. It just makes, I don't want to say the words that I really feel, but want to express my discontent in him. And we don't see them until it's time to vote. Then it's all touchy-feely, peachy. But that's not going to ride with us any longer. The fact that he went and had this done, yay or nay, without us even being in the mix, is just appalling.
Did you approach his office, or did you approach him and say in some way and say, hey, listen, Councilman, I just found out about this bill. You didn't give us any notice about it. You didn't give us any notice about this.
I didn't personally, but letters were written by another activist in my area who confronted me about going on. Letters were sent to him letting him know that the constituents in South Philadelphia want to have a say-so in this particular area that is all around us. It's an impact on us, as far as taxes and gentrification, but just to ignore us like we don't matter. That's the part that galls me, and that is so appalling to us in this area, long-term homeowners who want the best for our neighborhood, but at the same time, we want our fellow people down here to be able to afford these type of houses right in the middle of our neighborhood. And I am so angry. I'm trying not to get stressed out about it.
Real quick, I know, Ms. Vivian, one other question here, too. So what did you think of his comments he was reacting to? And I was actually, I tweeted a couple of times. I tweeted that, hey, there's a lot of public opposition, it seems, to that bill, and wanted people to see it. I attached a link to it. And also quoted him as he was. So he was seeing that action in public comments. He probably, his communications, we were also seeing that action on Twitter. What's your response to his comments? He's saying that he's always promoted a balanced approach towards affordable housing and workforce housing. That he's been an advocate for affordable housing in Philadelphia.
I disagree. I do not agree with his wording of that. And I think it was a lot of double talk. I think he was thinking that the people in this area that are vehemently opposing are not seeing through the smoking mirrors. That's what I think. And I know this man. His grandmother lived down the street from me, not even a block. And I watched him grow up. And I was an advocate for him when he was coming up, before he became city councilor. So I am terribly, terribly disappointed. And I do think we need to revisit this particular bill. I know it may have gone through, but I intend to struggle and fight with every bone and breath in my body because it's just not right. As a constituent in the South Philadelphia area for more than a half a century or more, you don't do that to people.
Yeah.
Strongly, and I wish he would come on the station and address the fact that he did not give us a say-so.
I will say, I'll just for the record, Ms. Vivian, I have reached out to his communications director just as we were listening in on City Council Live, and I noticed that there was a high level of comments surrounding that bill. Yes. I have reached out to his communications person to see if he can come on Reality Check next week to talk about it and to just talk about affordable housing issues overall. So let's see. I mean, I hope.
Okay.
I hope he takes us up on our offer.
Yes.
Not trying to, once again, bully anyone on air or put them in a corner. We just want to have a conversation about it to get his perspective and see why so many residents in his district are upset about it. Ms. Vivian, I'm going to let you go because I've got some other folks who are calling you, but thank you for sharing that. And once again, thank you for commenting or providing testimony on a really important, that's what I'm talking about during public, that's what public comment period is for. That's an example of putting members of city council on the spot about bills that they're introducing, about bills that are dealing with very important substantive issues like affordable housing, right? So what Ms. Vivian did, and so I'm hoping that Councilman Johnson takes us up on our offer, our invitation to come on next week and to talk more about it. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest, who's calling in for a reality check. Maurice?
Hey, Charles. Appreciate you being on the mission that you're on. See, ever since URD been on, I've been warning Philadelphians about this day, and then nobody been paying me no attention. I told them when gentrification comes, there will be high crime, because that's how you get long-time residents out their house that have been working 30 years to get a house, and they're seniors now, and you start the crime, and then they want to get out the neighborhood or go into a nursing home, and they won't give you market value for your house. They're going to give you market value what the city wants to give you. And then a lot of people don't understand. Their council people have been using eminent domain, especially in Mantua, on people's housing. People thought they could get in early, buy some property down there, and cash in when the gentrification starts, but city council steps in and says, oh, no, we're doing eminent domain on this whole block here. You don't put your hard work in there for 5 or 6 years trying to get it ready so it look like it's worth something, and they take it. I was listening to city council today. They were herding people in. It sounded like they were ringing a cowbell. They weren't listening to a word none of the people were saying. Not a word, because they don't have to. This COVID situation we have now is perfect with this Zoom, because they don't have to face the people. They're just looking at a screen. They don't have any emotion about what's going on. They throw a bunch of numbers around. Most people don't know what the numbers mean. You try to get into that land bank and try to buy some property of your own, you got to jump through hoops. People don't understand. If you're trying to get something off the land, your credit has to be perfect. If your credit's not perfect, you're not getting no property out of there. People don't understand that. And when they run this thing, I've been telling you, the reason I don't call, I like to give my opinion, but the reason I don't call city council, because the situation they got right now, they're dueling. They're probably looking at coupons or reading the newspaper or looking at a TV show. They're not paying attention to these people pleading their heart out on their hard-earned property that they got to give up with this crime and with the tax. See, people don't talk about the taxes. The Met, that's a gentrifier. That wasn't put there for us. That was put there to drive people out of that neighborhood. You go north of Broad Street all the way up to Temple. That's being cleared out for the people that's coming from Washington, D.C. and New York. I heard the lady get on there passionately talking about we need to stop complaining. We need to go downtown. But you said you didn't see Judas and the Messiah, right?
I haven't seen it yet, no.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is city council is Judas. If we got people that look like us telling us all kinds of nonsense, we want to believe them because they black too. That's how they got us trapped. But just imagine if city council was white, or it's not Curtis Jones, if Johnson was white, we would have been all over him. But because he's black and he grew up in our neighborhood, we trust him. And all he's doing is pushing people out. People got to wake up and understand when this next election comes, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put them same people back in office because we don't understand that they are public servants. They're not celebrities. They're not better than us. And the money that they're spending and all these bills and everything, that's our money. That's not their money. That's our money. So before I get upset, Charles, I know you're doing a great job investigating and finding out about the thing, and I forget about that great idea about people pay attention to the zoning, because that's part of gentrifying too. So, Charles, you do a great job, man, but I feel sorry for the seniors here in Philadelphia because it's done. It's a wrap. It's over already. We won't be living in 2035. I won't even be afford to live here because my tax is going to be sky high. I won't be able to keep my own house. Thank you, Charles.
All right. Thank you, Maurice out of Southwest. Let's go on to the phone lines. 215-634-8065. They're still open, 866-361-0900. Mamie out of University City is calling in for a reality check. Mamie?
Good afternoon, Brother Charles, and I thank Troy for patching me in. I would like to thank you for your advocacy. I appreciate everything you do. I don't want to put more on you than you can handle, but there needs to be some way for citizens, especially the seniors, because right now we are under siege. We are getting all kinds of nonsense through the telephone, on the computer, on your cell phone. They'll even come and leave things hanging on your doorknob. I mean, it's so unfair. The city council, could you please, some kind of way, put the information again for their website for the city government? I don't know what it is. PHLA or whatever.
Right. So the city website, the website for city government for the city of Philadelphia is phila.gov. That's it. Phila.gov.
Okay. Now I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And city council, Ms. Mamie, is phlcouncil.com.
PHL Council.
Yes. .com.
Okay. Thank you so
those
much,
are those are the two websites. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I'll definitely make it more of a habit of just telling people and trying to guide people through websites like Philadelphia City Council's. When you're listening to City Council, highly recommend that you have phlcouncil.com opened up in front of you while you're listening. If you have the ability to do so, and you could do that on a tablet and maybe a smartphone device as well as a laptop, because that'll help you as you're listening in to Philadelphia City Council. I'm sorry, Ms. Mamie, you had something else that was on your mind? Oh, okay, I think she already hung up. But no, thanks for that, Ms. Mamie. No, you're absolutely right, and we have to make sure we stay connected to exactly what's going on inside the City Council. That's also why we have this program, City Council Live. Let me go to Tiffany out of South Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Tiffany?
Hi, Charles. I wanted to call and talk about that bill, but because we're really angry right now. The thing about it is, this is about the land, and we're not here to badmouth Councilman Johnson. He may do well in other areas with youth violence and everything, and that's fine. But when it comes down to land development and community development, it's a different story. And I really would like to have a more in-depth discussion with you if you're going to do an interview with his office, because I can provide you with a lot of the information and things that you would need. But
I'll let folks know. Like I said, I've let folks know already. I've reached out to us. I haven't heard from the communications director just yet. So hopefully we'll hear from them soon. Saying, hey, we'd like to do that. That's one. Two, as you know, all Philadelphia elected officials, area elected officials who come on this program, the phone lines are open to them. And then three, yes, please do reach out to me, Tiffany. Just let me know what you'd like for us to ask.
Right, and I'm going to make a brief comment here, and then I would love to come on and talk more in depth, when you have extra time on your show.
Yes.
Because we've been here since 2012, and we know a lot of the details. The thing about it is this: we're tired of being treated like we're on a plantation. The thing about it is that this is unfair treatment. New residents, they get ample notification. They get a chance to have public meetings and have a chance to participate and dictate how they want these city-owned properties developed. Okay? We did not get any notification. There was no public meeting, no notification to RCOs whatsoever. We just happened to find this. And then when we found out about this back in July. We were closed. The city's closed for COVID-19. They come back and open up, they being RDA and Land Bank, open up, and as soon as they open up, they put this RFP out there for 20 properties. The developer that is getting these properties got 19 properties last year for Grace Ferry, as we said. Now they're giving him this 20 more properties, which is a real concern for us. First of all, why not minority contracting? We asked, could we set up a committee and go and oversee these 20 properties so we can come up with low-wage, low-income housing, which we have not had yet. At that point, we wanted to also talk about maybe finding a minority contractor or African-American contractor. Why is our contracting keep going to white developers? Okay? So this is a real concern for us, this project. And this is in an area that really is untouched but yet vulnerable to the gentrification. So it's important that we make sure the right type of housing get in this area so it will not be gentrified in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
I say all that to say that at this point, this is about respect. You have no problem asking your black community to stand with you when you're in need. But yet, when it comes down to development and community development, we don't even get a return letter on letterhead. Okay, and many other communities have talked about this. But yet we go down into the white area, and they got a whole pack of letters from the councilman's office. So this is unfair treatment. And so like I said, I'm going to let your other people, make comments. I would like to come on and talk about, and I would like to hear what he has to say, but I will give you some information and things that I think that he needs to answer. And then I would like to come on and address those issues, because this is very serious. And I want to say to your listeners, please keep a watch on them city-owned properties. This land back.
How do we do real? I'm curious though, because I know Sister Murray was saying this too. How do people? And I think that a lot of this has to do with lack of information, and then two, any lack of movement or action from, for example, City Council showing people where to find those vacant properties, or how to keep track of those vacant properties, or how to protect those vacant properties so they can be developed in the interest of longtime residents, or in the interest of Black communities that live, or Black residents that live in these communities. Where can people go?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, it's the Philadelphia Land Bank. They're located at 1234 Market Street. But if you Google it, it'll come up under PHCD, I think. And at that particular,
PHDCphila.org, Phila Land Bank.
Philadelphia Housing Community Development.org. Have a monthly meeting. Land Bank has a monthly meeting, and RDA has a monthly meeting. Okay, and you should get on their list so that you can go to their monthly meetings, and then you can see what properties are coming up far as to be conveyed for.
I'm on there now. Like right now, you can go to PHDCphila.org.
Right, land bank.
And you should be able to get information on, like, buying land like side or rear yards, community gardens, open space, recreational areas, land for business expansion, proposed affordable housing projects, assemblage, land for. So all that's supposed to be there at PHDCphila.org.
Land bank, right. My concern was this. When we went back in July 15th, we sent a letter over to the president of the land bank, Ann Fadilla. And when they did not agree with us, with our opposition, we tried to reach out and see what other levels we could go to. We found out that Ann Fadilla is not only the chair of the Philadelphia Planning Commission, but she's the president of the RDA and the president of the land bank. How does one person have these many positions over land acquisition agencies? And this is nothing against Ann. I mean, Ann, she does good work, I guess. I mean, I don't know personally know her, but I'm saying just for one person to have oversee 3 positions, which I think is a conflict of interest, because if you're the chair of the Planning Commission, which is over there approving a lot of market rate, then you're the president of the RDA and the land bank. I think that's a serious issue that needs to be addressed. There should be a separate person for each department.
The president of the land bank is also president of
the chairperson.
The chairperson. Okay. So they're playing dual roles at the Philadelphia Land Bank.
Yes, and the RDA. The RDA oversees the land bank. So she's the president of the RDA. And
Got it.
She is the president of the land bank. And then when we looked at the RDA board, there's no African Americans on the RDA board. Right.
Right.
But
let's look. See, that's what we need, that kind of conversation. I'm going to have to let you go though, Tiffany. But do reach out to me, cellison@wordradio.com. That kind of conversation, because there is a listener who's making a point about the information, about kind of knowing where, as the saying goes, knowing where the bodies are buried, but knowing what the property is, knowing exactly, like, I didn't know about this website, and I'm sure most folks in Philly do not know about PHDCphila.org, the Philadelphia Land Bank's website. Like, just go there, and then you could start that process of researching and looking into that land and finding out ways that you can purchase that land or acquire that land, or have your community organize as a community and look at ways in which you can acquire that land or preserve that land. Let me go to Tyrone out of North Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Tyrone?
Hey, peace and blessings, good brother. How we doing, Brother Charles?
How you doing, sir?
Look, man, everything's everything, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. First of all, peace and blessings to you, Brother Troy, and to my WURD family. you know, sure, I love Brother Maurice, but Maurice, this is not the time for us to be, you know, throwing in the towel. We all know that gentrification is real. It's happening every day. But we got to be just as aggressive in trying to maintain and hold on to our communities just as aggressively as these folks are coming and taking it. Now, I know you're saying that City Council is doing a lot to help those folks who are aggressively taking the community, and I beg the difference. I think folks who are just taking the community, they just have resources that the community don't have. That's why we got to be more in line with one another to keep folks from just coming in, buying up property, than doing anything and everything they want to do with it.
Right.
Because, you know, Brother Charles, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, when they did the I-95, and they took all of those black folks' properties in South Philly, particularly all the Bainbridge, Lombard, and South, and gave them $2,000 for their houses, and then when they stopped the project, the shells went from $50,000, $55,000, $60,000. And for me, that's when it really looked like gentrification started taking place. And then what's been happening, we got the financial institutions who are redlining, allowing folks to, you know, get finance in one part of the city and not get finance in another. So we got to look at all the different things that we are confronted with. But one of the things I just don't want Brother Maurice to be, you know, putting in the atmosphere about us giving up. Because since we've been here, brother, we've been struggling to live. We've been fighting for survival. And as of 2021, we can see that it's not going to stop. So let's stay in the struggle and let's keep on battling. But let's not ever, ever talk about giving up. Thank you, my brother, for allowing me to share.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that too, Mr. Tyrone. Yeah, we should never give up. You're absolutely right. So, I mean, I do hear, and I know you hear the frustration from folks like Maurice and others like that. That frustration is palpable, and we, definitely, people should be frustrated. But you definitely don't want to give up that fight. You can't give up that fight. And, you know, as long as you plan it, map it out, you know exactly what that fight is all about. And, you know, you look for, you're looking for ways to be effectively strategic and at times tactical as you go about that fight. You know, you're smart as you're fighting, you know, then we can find an outcome. We can find a positive solution. You know, we can resolve that crisis. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let me go to some of these comments on Facebook Live. Valerie Susan Wells McCloyd was talking about the gun buyback programs in the city. I think that was from an earlier listener who had called in and was talking about a gun buyback program. I think it was a Mount area that's supposed to be taking place this weekend, this Saturday. Valerie Susan Wells McCloy is making an interesting point here. Think about it, she says. Why are the people from the black community in the black churches having these buyback gun programs? We should protect our families and possessions too. How come we don't hear the Caucasians having these at their churches? Why do we as a people take the guns to these programs to get much less than the gun is worth? If the churches want to improve this problem of violence, why not have classes on control mechanisms? How to assess a problem before shooting? For example, count to 25 before firing. Some type of preventive classes, etc. Until we see the guns that are brought back get burned and destroyed in front of our eyes, then that is not good enough. What if those guns that are collected get back on the streets at a higher price? Then the cycle continues. The people need to see that they can trust the system. Melt the guns in front of the people who are giving up their weapons. peace in the streets. These are some real good points by Valerie Susan Wells McCloy. Thanks for tuning in too, and thanks for, I wonder if Valerie is still listening in. Just making some really good points. That's something that we have talked about before, but haven't had as much deeper conversation about it as we should. You've got high rates of gun violence in the city. Obviously, there's still an issue, particularly when we see these tragedies that happen where guns accidentally go off and they kill young people, young children. Maybe we need to have that conversation as a city. Other places, all the communities about, since, especially in a state like Pennsylvania, it's going to be a while before we do something about the proliferation of guns. So what about, firearm, I don't know what you would call that, firearm safety curriculum in Philadelphia public schools. That's not teaching young people, or it's not encouraging them how to use firearms. It's basically encouraging them how to act safely around firearms. That's something you don't see, and I think that's where Valerie is headed in this statement. She's making a very good point. And the other point too, I've always thought about that as well. Like, where do the guns go after they're bought back, after they're bought or purchased from government entities? Like, we do have that situation of the 200 guns that went missing from the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office, and the Philadelphia Controller was the one that had administered that audit, that investigation of the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office, at the prodding or the nudging of current Philadelphia Sheriff Rochelle Belaldi, and she's in a lot of trouble right now, as folks are watching those headlines unfold. So you have to wonder. Bernita Francine, Casa Husera is on this guns issue, is saying, why not put GPS chips in every firearm in America so we can stop lost or stolen firearms? Plus, we can hold people accountable because the GPS chips would act like a VIN number on a car, so the straw purchases would disappear. And if they throw the gun away, we would find it. It would do more than the buyback programs. It's also a good idea, and that's something that has been explored, but it's getting a lot of pushback, of course, from the gun lobby. Thank you, Bernita, who was enjoying this city council meeting today. Appreciate you. Raphael Suleiman is jumping in, and he's saying HR 40 is a national political issue. He's correct. City council should not comment on it. Well, I don't know if city council shouldn't comment on it, but I do agree with you. It has absolutely no bearing. I mean, the resolution from Philadelphia City Council on the implementation of a reparations commission or the passage of legislation on reparations in Congress, I mean, it just has absolutely no bearing. And maybe Councilman Johnson, he introduced that bill because he was trying to throw smoke around the sale of property that he was facilitating in his district. So, and he thought, okay, well, maybe they won't notice if I introduce this reparations bill, this bill talking about reparations. So it didn't quite work out that way. But anyway, Raphael goes on to say, gentrification is a real issue in Philly as the biotech and high-tech industries begin to take a foothold in Philly. The ingredients are all here: medical centers, colleges, and universities, and a depressed real estate market that a developer can buy into a low price and sell at high prices. The process has already begun. We don't have the leaders to combat it. To the last caller, there's so much confusion now because we don't have the political leadership talent to lead us to better solutions as the economy changes from a service economy to a technology-based one. We need visionary leaders now, and we don't have them in Philly. He's also saying working class black people in Philly may not be privy to how the business world operates. They need help. They may not know how to implement a strategic plan to save their neighborhoods. We need our elected leaders to help us, and they are not getting it done. Do agree, Raphael Suleiman on that point. All right, that wraps this Thursday edition of Reality Check City Council Live. I'm Charles Ellison. I'll see you next week, next Monday, God willing, at 10 a.m. I want to thank Troy Wilmore as well. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Continue to go to phlcouncil.com for more in the Philadelphia City Council. I want to thank Philadelphia City Council, too, for live streaming City Council Live here on WURD. We're going into The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders. That's coming up next, so stay tuned into WURD. Philly and beyond, I want you to stay sharp, stay smart, but more importantly, please stay safe out there, all right? Have a great weekend. Take care.